Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for a bookish update. So currently, I am reading the Book of Lost Things. It's my primary read. I've dipped my toes into other stuff. I was trying H.P. Lovecraft again, but I don't know if I'm going to continue with him because, first of all, I'm picky with short stories. I'm not a regular short story reader. And then on top of that, I'm not a big fan of, I don't think I'm a big fan of cosmic horror, as they call it. Like, I'll watch it in a movie or TV show, but, all the science is very overwhelming. It can be very confusing for me, and I would rather, have a character on screen being told, explain the science, rather than having to read it rather than having to read the character explaining it. And they're I tried reading The Mountains of Madness, the novella, and in the beginning, right away in the book, it's all explaining the longitude and the latitude and the area of the Antarctica, the landscape in Antarctica and everything, all of that. And that's just very confusing for me to get into. I have a hard time getting into that. And so I might just, some of the stories were kind of interesting when I read another collection I had of his works, but I think I'm just gonna, science fiction is just, I don't always work well with science fiction. If it clearly has more of a fantastical element that, leans more towards fantasy, then maybe, but I did like Dune, although I didn't continue Dune, I DNF'd the series. But yeah, I think I'm gonna DNF for good H.P. Lovecraft. Anyway, so this book is by John Connolly. It is a story about our main character, David, and I think he's 10. It's set during World War II. And in the beginning of the book, we learn that his mom has just died. I believe it's cancer. His dad is a math professor, but when World War II hits, he is recruited by the government. But before that, his dad meets someone new and falls in love with Rose. And they end up getting pregnant, and David has a new little brother, Georgie, and Rose and David's dad get married, and David is not happy about it. He feels like she has taken, his dad has moved on too quickly, and she is taking his dad away from him, and he doesn't like having a little brother, and of course, having a kid is very stressful and exhausting, and it's too much for it's very hard for the family. And Rose tries to win him over, but he's not having it. He's just very against her unless she could offer him something. At one point, he does have to ask her about something, and they do not get along, and that frustrates his dad. So David just retreats into books. He discovers that Rose's home, the home she inherited from her family, has a small, tiny little library of books, and he immediately retreats into them and begins reading, spends all his time trying to stay out of the way of his stepmom and just read. Of course, that kind of backfires because, it seems like he's not offering to help. He's just sitting there doing his own, doing his own thing and not really caring about helping the family, and so that does not make Rose entirely happy. But then one night, after having a big fight with his stepmom and dad, David is lured away by this mysterious crooked man who he keeps seeing and hearing, and is lured through a tree into another world. So this is where it very much gets into fairy tale and Alice in Wonderland type vibes. You have the woodsman, you have hunters, you have a knight, you have wolves that are half man, half wolf. And of course you have the crooked man, who's the main antagonist. You have the king. He's told of a king when he can't get back to his own world. He's told by the woodsman that we need to find the king, the dying king, who has this book that has everything he needs to know that might be able to help him get back. So he's on a quest to find this king. we also have dwarves in the story, and trolls, and so far it's really fun. It is a fun story, although I'm getting very frustrated by David's character at some points. Granted, he's only 10 years old, so I have to make allowances and be a little, he's very naive. And stories like this are all about the kid character thinks one way about things, and then as they go on this adventure, they learn and they start to grow and become an adult and leave childhood behind and realize things are not what they seem, and they're being unfair, and that they need to, and realize that the world is complicated and not that simple, and there's a lot of gray areas in life. But yeah, all the scenes with David the Crooked Man, I'm just so frustrated. I'm like, you can't trust him. He's lying to you. He might tell you a little bit of truth, but he will always twist things and make them seem worse than they are. Like, he tricks David, shows David a scene of his family now that he's gone, and makes it look like, oh, they're happier without you. Their lives are better without you. And he's like, oh, I can return you home, and your dad will love you, and it'll be all about you and him again, just like you always wanted. He's like promising David to give him his desires, all he wants, and also sending him home. And so of course David's gonna believe it. And then you also have during their third encounter, he insists he will give David what he wants, but he also is like, all I need from you is a name of your little brother. And David, of course, David's thinking, oh, it's just a name, it's not a big deal. But meanwhile, I'm like, names are important. They are a big deal. You cannot give your brother's name to this man. You cannot trust him. He is going to put your brother in danger. And even though you don't love your little brother, you don't like him, you're going to feel guilty because you are a good kid. You have a good heart. And also, he stubbornly won't, because he wants to believe that his mom is alive. And that's what also lured him into this world, is hearing his mom's voice and thinking that she's trapped in another world. And that he can save her, because before him, when his mom was dying, he was thinking, oh, if I can do this and this, then maybe I can save her. Like, he has OCD, and when his mom is dying, he's like, oh, I have to, do all these things that will, and that as long as I do those routines, then my mom might be safe. And of course, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So also there's a melancholiness to the book. I mean, it very much deals with grief and a child's grief, and actually recently, this is not the first time I just realized that also the movie If, also John Krasinski's movie If, also deals with grief and how a child is coping with that, and how now she's older than David. The child character is older than David, but B is also still at heart a child dealing with having to cope with grief and fears and not understand the world around her. And so she's trying to be a grown-up, but magic ends up helping her. Like, her imagination and imaginary friends is what helps her. Well, in the case of this, it's books and getting lost in another world that might help David. I feel like they do that a lot of these types of books, where a kid, what starts out the story is the kid's loss of like a parent or something, and having to deal with that, and having to experience grief and loss at a very young age, and the fears that come with that. And so it's like fantasy elements are a way to help these kids deal with that. So this is, so far, it's really good. I'm almost at the halfway point in this. There is the sequel, the Land of Lost Things, which I'm wondering what that one is going to explore. Like, I know that I looked at in the back of the book, there is an author, where the author interview, and the interview does ask John Connolly if he wants to explore this world again, and there is a sequel. There's a sequel about from reading the back description, it is about a little girl. In that one, so I don't know what she experiences that brings her to this world. But anyway, so I'm really enjoying this. This world is really fun. It's also obviously scary at the same time. And I think if you like Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland and fairy tales and stuff like that, I think you'll probably enjoy this. And I feel like it's also a book, that young kids can read too. It's very much like adults can enjoy, but also one of those books that where adults and kids can enjoy this and appreciate this book. But adults versus kids have different perspectives on the story. Like they see things very differently. But yeah, I don't know if I'll read more from John Connolly because he does write a variety of different types of books that aren't necessarily my cup of tea. But I do think it's good when a writer or an actor or a director tries different things, different ways to tell stories. I think that's important, so you won't get stuck doing the same type of thing. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, if that's what you're good and you enjoy doing that, then where you do the same type of thing, and that's fine. I mean, there's a lot of authors that will stick to the same universe, like Cassandra Clare, where a long time she was doing the same type of thing. Or, and now she has gone beyond that with another book. And then the same with, Gregor Maguire has done a lot of the same, all his books are kind of fairy tales, but a new way to tell them. Telling them from the point of view of other characters, like sometimes the antagonist. But I don't even know if Gregor Maguire. I was just wondering about that actually, because Wicked, the movie adaptation, just came out. I haven't gone to see it, but I really want to see it. I was hoping to see it with Larissa, but there's no way to arrange us to. She's in another state, so maybe I'll see you with my mom when she comes back from visiting my grandmother. So anyway. Back to this. But yeah, so I mean, if you're you're good at that, then go for it. But I do think it's kind of nice to try variety. But like I said, sometimes that for me at least, even though I think it's important, it doesn't always mean I'm going to read everything you write. But there is a book in the back of this that is advertised, The Gates, that might be kind of fun that I might like. Although I'm wary about it because it's, when it does describe as humor, kind of a humor story, so I be apprehensive about stories that are straight up humor, but I mean, it might not be straight up humor. Like I have my relationship with satire varies. That's one of those genres where sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. That's how it is with stream of consciousness. Like there have been rare moments where stream of consciousness has worked for me. But yeah, so but anyway, I'm really enjoying this. This is really fun, and so I haven't picked up Ulysses again, but I will at some point, and I have not picked up, I did read a little bit earlier this week of, The Talisman, but I haven't really gone very far. The last part I read was the kid in that one. Can't remember his name at the moment. So let me see. Jack. That's right, Jack. Oh, I'm surprised I didn't remember. That's kind of my name. That Jack has, after traveling to his fantasy world, his magical world, through that potion at least once, now he's like the territories, that's what it's called. The territories, he's told by Speedy that he has to go back. Because if he saves the lady in that world, who is kind of the twinner to his mom, he could save his mom. And he gets back to our world and goes to talk to his mom. Which that was a very interesting conversation because, like, you could tell that, like, she was trying to be like, oh, honey, being like, oh, you're being silly, you're being kind of talking down to him, trying to talk him out and tell him that basically the whole trying to persuade him that, oh, you're being irrational, you're being crazy. But then she also but he is not having it, and he's like, about all this. That Dad could do the same thing I can, that I've discovered. And because she's a little more like, she doesn't want him to go, she's scared for him, but at the same time, she's like, she's not as dismissive of it, and is not like talking about it not being like real. Like, she knows, like, she's a little more accepting of it and just trying to tell him not to do it. Because she knows it's dangerous. And she'd rather him not be part of this. That's the vibe I was getting in that scene. And then, so that's the last thing I read, and then he's going to that world now. Getting, like, preparing to leave. So I haven't read much, but I want to get as much read as I possibly can so that I can actually get it done in 2 months, because that's my plan, to read a Stephen King book every 2 months. Although I need to check and see. Do it now. I'm thinking about. It's see how long this is. Okay, so it's 769 pages. So 769 pages. So it's not a super. So it's long. It's kind of one of the longer ones. At least it's not the 1,000-page. Like, but I figure if I start now, like I said, I'm starting now, and if I could read a little more by the end of November and take it in December, and then I could get it done by February, ideally. Promise I'm gonna try to, like I said, I don't want to be overly ambitious with my TBR, have too big of TBRs. Which is kind of what holds me back from reading books that long. So I need to, try not to get tempted, because I have so many books, which my mom's solution would be probably stop buying books, but that, let's face it, that's not going to happen. The only, so, but I want to make sure that but then, because of, so I end up having so many books to read, because they're all, I'm like, I see them all, and I'm like, I want to read them all, and then I end up picking so many books, and so I can mark them off my list of books that I've read. And I'm trying not to come off as that person who is more thinking about the quantity of what I'm reading. And I think that's why I need to make sure, I just need to make my TBRs, or my pile of possibilities, not a pile, but just a couple books, or a handful of books, like 3 or 4 books. I mean, at least I won't struggle as much when I'm home, because I can always go to my shelf and pick another. But when I go to, I've said this before, one of my problems is why I can't narrow down the books I want to bring with me when I go to my mom, my sisters, or my grandmother's, is because I can't bring my whole library with me. So these are the books I'm going to be with for a few days. And I'm like, oh, what if I change my mind? Or, oh, I need to read this, and I will feel guilty because I don't have that book with me. But yes, I'm going to try to finish The Talisman by February. I mean, if I don't, it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. But I want to try to stick to that plan. I did attempt to read a little bit more of Demon Copperhead, which I definitely am getting the whole, I'm definitely seeing the David Copperfield vibes with, like, I wish I could, I want to take the sticker off, but I'm worried it's going to leave residue. And, I mean, I know that there are methods like hand dryers and all that, so maybe I could try that, I don't know, but, anyway. Although, now I'm reading this, I don't know, I might give the Poisonwood Bible another chance, because I have seen it there, and I saw it at Gibbons, and I thought about buying it. Again, because I've had it before and I attempted it, but I just wasn't as interested. But I think I might try it again. I mean, I could always get it on my Kindle. That's what I'm thinking about doing, is like books that, I don't want to, like, maybe not buy all the books I'm giving another chance, that I might give another chance, but get them on Kindle. Like, if they were shorter, then I could borrow them from the library. But as I said before, I want to prioritize my own books, my owned books. And if I go to the library, then I might prioritize the library reads because I have to return them at some point. But anyway, so I'm definitely seeing the references to David Copperfield in this. I mean, I do agree you could probably get away with not reading David Copperfield to enjoy this, but I think it makes it more fun if you've read David Copperfield and you see all the references to it. Like, how our narrator, David, our Demon, tells his story, Damon tells his story, like, is very much the way David told his. It has a similar kind of vibe and tone and stuff like that. Except for, his vocabulary is very different from David's. So there's his mom meets Stoner, who is kind of like, I can't remember the stepfather's name in David Copperfield. I don't remember that guy's name. I don't remember his name, but I think it was a similar name to Stoner. And there's that, and then I don't know if they're going to include, I'm curious if they're going to include the sister and have Stoner have a sister. Or maybe she's going to be like an old girlfriend and that he's only using Damon's mom. Like, maybe he's seducing her or something. But it's probably going to be sister. And then also the Pegotes, like Pagodes, I never know how to say that name. And how they're his next door neighbors and they have a lot of kids, and but yeah, there's definitely, if you've read David Copperfield, there are obviously, you can see the similarities where it clearly is paying homage to David Copperfield. But yeah, I have not read a lot. I mean, it feels like I've read a bit, but it's not. Especially because in this book is about dinosaurs. A lot of books. So if you read the acknowledgments ends on page 548. So 546. So there's a little over 500, almost 600 pages. So anyway, I'm not going back to Ulysses, but I plan to. Although I was just watching some videos on this one video I had already mentioned. I already forgot the guy's name, but where he's talking about, ways to read better or more effectively, and he talked about the reading projects and everything. That's what I want to do in 2025. And I was just thinking about that. I just lost my train of thought. Why did I bring that up? Dang it. Never mind, forget about that, because I don't remember why I brought that up. Oh yeah, I brought that up because he talked, I also was watching, that also led me to videos on reading these harder books, like Ulysses. And actually, it might have been Robin Waldron's video. Yeah, I think it was that one. Talking about reading harder books. And I just realized I started thinking about Don Quixote and reading that one instead, because that one's a little more fun and adventurous and has a little bit of a fantasy feel to it, even though, it doesn't have magic or anything, except, it's just this guy wanting to be a knight and believing himself to be a knight. But there is a fantasticalness about that story. And I thought, oh, maybe I should go to that one before I get back to Ulysses. Like maybe save Ulysses for a little bit longer, put on hold for a little longer. And I haven't read a lot of it, so if I don't read a lot of a book, then I feel like, okay, that's okay, I can just keep going from there. Although at the same time, it's like if you read a lot and then you feel like you had to put the book down, I feel like I put the book down, then I feel like I have to start over. And if I've read a lot, then I'm like, oh, dang it, now I have a lot of catching up to. But anyway, so I might go to Don Quixote and read that one instead. And that's another one that I did start not that long ago and then just put it down. I mean, it might have been at least a year long, maybe a year or two when I first picked it up. So it has been a while. But anyway, so that was a little more, so I might start that one and put Ulysses down once again and come back to it. I've not made much progress on the Blackwater, except for like I said, Oscar and Eleanor got married, much to the chagrin of his mom, Mary Love, and everything, and they get married, and Mary Love has been delaying and procrastinating the house because she wants to keep them in her house because she still does not trust Eleanor. And she ends up, but their house is still built. But, Oscar convinces her to not procrastinate the building of their house anymore. But they also don't have furniture and stuff like that. So she was like, oh, you need to stay here because I want to get, you deserve to have furniture in the house before you live in it. Which, yeah, makes sense to some extent. But, at the same time, like, oh, she's trying to keep them here. She's delaying it for as long as possible. So it's like on the surface it makes sense, but then on the other hand you realize, as you get to know the character, you realize, oh no, it's not. She's just using that excuse to keep them here. She doesn't want them to leave. And Oscar's such a mama's boy, which is not a bad thing. It depends. I mean, it can vary. Sometimes it can be bad. Sometimes it depends on the relationship, like how healthy is the boy and his mom. Their relationship is. how toxic it is and all that. And then also another part I read was they were worried about the town flooding again. So they're like, oh, we should build a dam. And this was put on the table by another character, James. James's wife returns to the town, and I think Mary Love doesn't trust her even less than she doesn't trust Eleanor. So she decides Eleanor is the lesser evil at the moment, and I would rather, trust her than James's wife, who all of a sudden came back after abandoning her family. But anyway, she's all like, oh, why don't you guys, if you guys are so worried about the town flooding, build a dam like all these other places. And the town's all excited, but Eleanor's a little weird and does not like the idea. Eleanor is not too keen on that idea of building the dam. So that's the last thing I read. So I have not picked it up since. I do want to, in December, I want to pick up All the Light That Falls. I want to get that done because that's the last book that I gotta read in Lycaena's trilogy. It's a trilogy, so I only have one more book to go. And then also the same thing with what is that one series? All Souls trilogy. Although there is a fourth book, Time's Convert. But I think that's about that Time's Convert is kind of a prequel book, or about the son of Matthew, his son. It's about his story in his relationship with Matthew. So it's not a part of the main arc. So I mean, I still would like to read it, but when I'm done, when I've read the Book of Life, then I'll consider it done. It will be done, and then I'll read Time's Comfort. I don't know. We will see. But anyway, let's see what else. So I'm thinking, I'm kind of thinking about. I'm trying not to do a TBR for December, but I am thinking about books that I want to get to in December, like Babel, by Arapong, The Unconsoled by Kazu Ishiguro. Like I said, the light of all that of the light of all that falls. Sorry, those titles are tongue twisters. I mean, they're really not, but they're really long. And then, The Secrets of Heartwood Hall, which I'm hoping to get her other book, The Trouble in Miss Montgomery Hearst. I want to get that at some point soon. Like, either I'm hoping maybe someone will give it for me for Christmas because it is on my Amazon wish list, or I'll buy it myself at some point. But I want to read The Secrets of Heartwood Hall first before I get that one. So I want to read that in December. If I don't get to that in November. And then I have this pile here of those books are still here, sitting here. The Grace of Kings, I want to get to. The Emperor of Ocean Park, The Overstory, and then Shogun. Those are all the ones. And then, of course, I'm going to continue reading Blackwater. But most of these books I doubt I'll get to by the end of the month. But some of them are potentially good. And then also, I was thinking, there's also Homecoming by Kate Morton I want to get to. And I need to do that. I want to do an author spotlight on her. I keep meaning to do that, but I keep delaying it because I'm like, oh, I gotta reread all of her books to refresh my memory. But that's probably not gonna happen anytime soon. I mean, I could always, until I actually do read, because I do want to reread them, all of them, but I could also, like, look it up on Wikipedia or something. Probably look at the plots of all her books and refresh my memory on those. Or I could just, just do it and reread them. Because I only have like 3 or 4 more to go to reread. It's just, I keep saying I'm going to do it, and then it doesn't ever happen. But, so I want to do that at some point. An author spotlight on Kate Morton. Ideally this year. I also have decided to, I have written down, I have a printed list of the Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge of all the books that she's read. And I wrote down the ones that, twice actually, without realizing it, I wrote down twice all the books that I own that I want to read. Now, I mean, the first time I wrote the list, I wrote down, it was more writing down the ones that, like, because not just the ones that I own, but there's also some of the ones that I want to read that I have access to, like at least 2 of them I can get for my sister. Like Beloved, my sister has Beloved, for instance, by Toni Morrison, and that's on the list. So I could get it from her, and there's other ones that I've seen, like I've seen Bel Canto, both in the library and at Gibbons Bookshop, so I could buy it, or I could borrow it from the library. Which I actually kind of like that cover on that one. It's a very, like, it's all blue with the title, and it looks like it's on a, I don't know what that's called, but the thing that you have the music notes on a piece of music. The scale, or is it the scale? I don't know what the lines, and you have the music notes. I don't know what that's called. I should ask my friend Larissa. She's the music person. And so Bel Canto also, and there's a few others that I might be able to get access to because either my sister has them or I've seen them somewhere else. So that was that list, but there's also the second time I wrote a list was more the books that I actually own that I can read myself, and I don't have to get them later in the future. I'll have to get them from somewhere else. Like, they're ones that are actually on my shelves. And I can read them. So I would like to read 1 of those or 2 of those, every couple months or every month. as well. That's basically what I'm going to try to do, is like every month or every couple months read the books that are part of my different reading projects. But we will see. Knock on wood that I don't, mess myself up with this. So anyway, so that is how things are going with reading wise. I would love to know what you are currently reading. Do you have plans for December? Do you have plans for next year already? Would love to know what those are. How's your reading going right now? I mean, I would love to know what you are currently reading. Feel free to share in the comments below what that is. And I hope you are having a good day whenever you watch this video. And if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification button below if you want to be notified about my videos as I upload them. I hope you're enjoying your reading, and I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye!